What's up, everybody? Welcome in for another episode of Deep Thread Sports. I'm Colin Herzog, your host here today. As you see, David Vega is not here today. Our co-host, he is actually out. He's on a family vacation here, so he'll be back before too long. As we've mentioned before, we are busy with our families quite a bit, so we're trying to do as much as we can. Trying to get this one out to you real quick before the season starts. This is important information. We told you we would drop our top 38 power ratings, record predictions. We will drop our top 12 playoff predictions, and we will drop some season bets for you. And with the season kicking off this coming weekend here, we got to get it out to you right away. So we're going to get after it here. First, I'm going to address the hat. Yeah, I am obviously a Mizzou fan. This is a Notre Dame hat. I had a good friend of mine, a longtime family friend. His name is Blake Groupie. He was a kicker there. So we went out to a couple of games with a lot of friends. Got to support him. It was awesome. He was the kicker there. It was fantastic to watch. Proud of everything he's accomplished. Off to the New Orleans Saints now. Good luck to his future endeavors there. We don't want to forget his little brother, Brett. He's out there kicking at UCM, University of Central Missouri, playing some ball there as well. Want to wish him good luck. Come from a great family. Congratulations to all their accomplishments. Look forward to chatting with them soon. We have a City Soccer shirt on here. We are massive City St. Louis soccer fans in this household. We try not to miss a game. Love to support them and everything they've accomplished so far. This is year 2 of them as a franchise. So great kickoff to them. Great season last season. Look forward to watching them in the future as well. But while we're here today, we have our win-loss prediction records for our top 38 teams. So we're going to go ahead and get deep in it here and go ahead and get after it. Leading it off at number 38, obviously we have Liberty. We talked about them a little bit before. Not much to discuss here. We are just going to discuss win-losses at this situation. And they currently don't play any opponent in the 38 ratings of ours. So we're not going to get deep in that schedule. We do think they clean sweep it, go 12-0. They will have a tough game at Appalachian State, but I think that will be, not an easy win for them, but I do think they get by and they do go ahead and secure that last spot in the playoffs for the group of 5. At number 37, we had Boise State. They do have an opponent on our top 38. It is Oregon. That game is at Oregon. I do think Boise State drops that. I do think that's what separates them from the playoffs. I do not look for them to win that contest. I really don't look for them to give Oregon much of a game there, to be quite honest with you. So I think they come up just short, probably a loss, and that will keep them out. At number 36, we have UCF. They have a game at Florida, at Iowa State, home game against Arizona, home game against Utah. Those are the 4 opponents they have in our top 38. We do think they go 1-3 in that 4-game stretch. That would probably put them at 9-3 on season's end. A great season for them, step in the right direction. 9 wins is nothing to be upset about, especially for that UCF program. Getting down to 35, SMU, we do have them going 10-2. They do have 2 opponents in our top 38, that being Florida State and at Louisville. We do think they do drop both of those games, wrap it up at 10-2. Great first season for them in the ACC. Now off to Louisville at 34. They do have 5 opponents in our top 38. They have a game at Notre Dame. We do think they drop that. Home game against SMU. We think they bag that one. They have a home game against Miami. We think they drop it. At Clemson, at UK, Kentucky. I think they drop both of those games. That'll end their season somewhere around the 8-4 range. I don't think they'll be too happy with that, but 8-4 is nothing to be too upset about. Get off to a bowl, get you a win there, and get on to next season. Arizona at 33 here. They do have 3 opponents in our top 38 at Kansas State, at Utah, at UCF. We do think that they actually drop all 3 of those games. We do think they wrap their season up at 9-3. Also another successful season with 9 wins. At number 32, we have South Carolina. Man, they have a loaded schedule. They have 8 teams in our top 38. Unfortunately for them, we do think they got by all of those opponents. We do have them ending the season at 4-8, not exactly what they want. It could lead to a Shane Beamer exit. It's sad for that South Carolina program. They have a diehard fan base. We want them to get things going in a better direction, but that schedule just gets the best of them yet again, even though they have a talent-loaded roster. At 31, we have Wisconsin. They also have a hefty amount of opponents in our top 38 with 6 teams. I think they do lose all 6 of those games as well. I think they wrap season up at 6-6. Luke Fickell really needs to get that program over the hump of 6 wins, get them going in the right direction. At number 30, we have Virginia Tech. We do think Virginia Tech goes this season at 11-1. Virginia Tech, they play at Miami. They play host to Clemson. We think they split that, go 1-1, win the home match against Clemson. What a great season for Virginia Tech this would be if they can get it going at 11-1. At number 29, we had Kentucky. They have quite a few opponents in our top 38 here. They have 8 opponents in the top 38. We do think they win 2 of those. Both of those games being a home match against South Carolina and a home game against Louisville. We think they drop Georgia, at Ole Miss, drop at Florida, drop home against Auburn, drop at Tennessee, and drop at Texas. We do think that in Kentucky season, we think they end up around the 6-6 mark. We have questions about Mark Stoops. I'm a Mark Stoops fan, but how long do they put up with that 6-6? It's whatever that admissions want. At 28, we have Iowa State. They have 5 teams in our top 38. They have a home game against Iowa, home game against UCF. They play at Kansas, at Utah, home against K-State. That does end their season at 9-3. 9-3 is a great season for Matt Campbell and that Iowa State team. Nothing to be upset about there. At 28 or 27, we have Kansas. They have 2 teams in our top 38, at K-State, home against Iowa State. We do think they drop both of those games, also ending Kansas' season at 10-2. At 26, we have NC State. They have two games in our top 38 at a home team against Tennessee, and they play at Clemson. We do think they drop both of those games as well, ending their season also at 10-2. A great season for that Wolfpack team. Nothing to be upset about there. At 25, we have USC. They have 6 teams in our top 38. We think they go 1-5 in that 6-game stretch against those opponents. At LSU, at Michigan, home against Wisconsin, home against Penn State, home against Nebraska, and home against Notre Dame. That is a pretty tough schedule that first year, obviously, over in the Big Ten. Don't think it goes the absolute best for them, what they're looking for. We do think it ends their season at 7-5, I should say. Lincoln Riley, it really starts to heat up for him and what he can become with this program. At 24, we have Auburn. They have 6 games in our top 38. Oklahoma, Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky, A&M, at Alabama. We do think Auburn goes 1-5 in that stretch as well. That would wrap their season up around the 7-5 mark. Really look for them to catapult going into next season, get that young roster, another year of experience, keep getting Hugh Freeze's recruits in there. That team will be off to the races before too long. Oklahoma State at 23. They have 2 opponents in this top 38 ratings. Utah at K-State. We think they split that. We think they go 1-1 in that situation. That would leave Oklahoma State. We have them rounding it out at 11-1. What a great season for them this could be. If they do go 11-1, look for Ollie Gordon's name to be in that Heisman conversation because they just don't do this without him. At 22, we have Nebraska. They play at Ohio State, at USC, home against Wisconsin, at Iowa. We do have them going 2-2 in that stretch. Shockingly, for some of you, we have Nebraska going 10-2. We think Matt Rhule and Dylan Raiola get this thing off to a hot start. And I really do expect big things from that program, especially here in the near future. At 21, we have Iowa. They have 4 teams in our top 38. They have Iowa State, at Ohio State, home against Wisconsin, home against Nebraska. We think they split that. We think they round it out that would put them at 10-2. What a great season for them that would be. Again, 10 wins is nothing to be upset about. 10 wins is very impressive. Hopefully they score a few more points on that offense this year, really get that thing going on that side of the ball. Expect the defense to be stout. At 20, we have Kansas State. They have Arizona, Oklahoma State, Kansas, at Iowa State. So that's 4 teams in our top 38. We think Kansas State wins all 4 of those games. We think Kansas State clean sweeps the schedule. We expect big things from Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens. We look at that team to go 12-0 and make a playoff run here. So everybody buckle up. Avery Johnson's the real deal. At 19, we have Florida. We have talked about their schedule a ton. They have 10 games against opponents in our top 38. Good luck. Nobody could handle a schedule like that. And this is a very, very tough schedule. They have Miami, Texas A&M, UCF, at Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, at Florida State. My goodness. What a tough season this is going to be for Billy Napier and the Gators. Luckily, they're a talent-loaded roster to even get to the mark of 5-7. Just not good for them. Unfortunately, they come up just short. Look for them to make some changes. At number 18, we have Texas A&M. They play Notre Dame, at Florida, Missouri, LSU, at South Carolina, at Auburn, and host to Texas. We do have Texas A&M going 5-2 in that stretch. We have Texas A&M ending the schedule at 10-2. What a great first year, Mike Elko. That would be man, this team could really be off to the races if they catapult to that 10-2 record to start their first season as a unit together. At number 17, we have Tennessee. They play host to NC State, at Oklahoma, host to Florida, host to Alabama, host to Kentucky, and at the University of Georgia. We do think Tennessee goes 3-3 in that stretch. We think Tennessee ends the season at 9-3. We do expect to hear Nico's names in the Heisman conversation a little bit here. He is a wonderful talent. Tennessee going 9-3. Great first year starting for Nico and Josh Heupel. Look for that offense to be buzzing. At number 16, we have Utah. They play at Oklahoma State, host against Arizona, host against Iowa State, and at UCF. So that gives them 4 teams in our top 38 power ratings. We do think Utah goes 3-1 in that stretch. The one loss being at Oklahoma State. Obviously, we expect big things from Oklahoma State. Look for that to be a massive game, have massive implications in this Big 12 conference. Utah wrapping up the season in the Big 12, their first year there at 11-1. What a great first start for them this could be. Up next, we have number 15, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's first year in the SEC here coming out of the Big 12, and wow, did they get a hell of a schedule with 8 teams on the schedule in the top 38 here. Tennessee, Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, at Ole Miss, at Missouri, Alabama, at LSU. That is a gauntlet. We have them going 3-5 in that stretch. Not a bad start for Oklahoma in the SEC. Obviously not up to their standards, but man, what a schedule that is. We have them wrapping this thing up at 7-5 in their first year of the SEC. If you tell me they do something better and go 9-3, that would not surprise me. But let's see what we get here from the Oklahoma Sooners in year 1 in the SEC. At number 14, we have LSU. They have 7 teams in our top 38. USC at South Carolina, Ole Miss at A&M, Alabama at the University of Florida, and host to Oklahoma. We have LSU going 5-2 in that stretch. We have LSU ending the season at 10-2, just another successful season for Brian Kelly and that LSU Tigers program. You look for their name to be in the playoff conversation. We do expect big things from them as well. Number 13, we had Missouri. They have 5 teams in the top 38. They did draw a pretty favorable schedule for what they have building in that program right now. They play at A&M, host to Auburn, at Alabama, host to Oklahoma, and at South Carolina. We do, in fact, have Missouri wrapping this thing up at 11-1. Maybe I'm being a little too hopeful, but I know better with this Missouri team. I find myself getting my heart broken quite often, but I do expect them to turn the page coming off that momentum builder last season. Elijah Drinkwitz has this team going in the right direction. And let's not forget, we love Kirby Moore there at that offensive coordinator position. At number 12, we have Clemson. They play at Georgia, NC State, at Florida State, Louisville, at Virginia Tech, South Carolina. We do have Clemson dropping 3 of those games. We do have Clemson rounding this thing out at 9-3. Another 9-win season for Dabo. They do come up double-digit wins short for the second time in a row. That does not happen for Dabo in this Clemson team. We do look for him to get forced to dip his hands in that transfer portal coming into the next season. At number 11, we have Florida State. They do have 5 teams in our top 38. They play at SMU, host to Clemson, at Miami, at Notre Dame, host to Florida. We do look for Florida State to drop 2 of those games and win 3 of them, and that would round the season out for them at 10-2. What a great season for Mike Norvell and this Florida State team. Lost a lot on offense, rebuilt in the portal well. Florida State 10-2, look to have their name around the conversation for the playoffs. At number 10, we have Miami. They play at Florida, host to Virginia Tech, at Louisville, at Florida State. So they have 4 opponents in our top 38 here. We do look for Miami to clean sweep those 4 games. We do look for Miami to go undefeated. We do look for Miami and Mario Cristobal to do big things with this team. Cam Ward coming in, looks to get the job done for them. Come on, Hurricanes. At number 9, we have Michigan. They have 4 opponents in our top 38, playing host to Texas, host to USC, host to Oregon, and at Ohio State. So they do get a lot of those tough games at home. They are on the road at Ohio State, but we do have Michigan going 1-3 in this stretch. We have Michigan wrapping up the season at 9-3. 9 wins coming off a national championship, new head coach, new quarterback. Did lose some on the defense, but you return a ton of studs on that defensive side of the ball. 9-3, nothing to be upset about, especially coming off a national championship. Look for them to catapult again right back into that top conversation coming into next season. At number 8, we have Notre Dame. They have 4 teams in our top 38. At Texas A&M, hosted Louisville, host to Florida State, and at USC, we have Notre Dame going 3-1 in this stretch, dropping the game at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is one of the more hostile environments in the country to go play at. We do think Texas A&M gets them. Riley Leonard will be revisiting his head coach, Mike Elko. Mike Elko, look for him to have a great game plan for how to slow down Riley Leonard. Notre Dame ending the season, we have them going 11-1. As long as that offensive line can hold up with those depth issues, with the injuries they've had as of late on that offensive line, Notre Dame wrapped this thing up at 11-1. And like we said before, they're not in a conference, so they can't get a top 4 spot. We will get into that playoff conversation here coming up shortly. At number 7, we have Penn State. They play 3 teams in our top 38 at USC, at Wisconsin, host to Ohio State. Shocker here. We have Penn State clean sweeping this. We have Penn State taking that next step. We have Penn State going 12-0. We have Penn State going undefeated. I know that's a shock for most of you, but I'm a believer this year. I haven't been the biggest believer in James Franklin, but I do think big things are on the horizon for Penn State with Drew Aller and Andy Kotelnicki coming together. I think Drew Aller has a cannon for an arm. All of my friends know I'm high on Drew Aller. I am a believer, and I do think they get it done this year. Ohio State coming to Penn State. Tough environment, look to be very hostile, probably be a whiteout game. Go Penn State. At number 6, we have Ole Miss. Ole Miss has 6 teams in our top 38, host to Kentucky, at South Carolina, at LSU, host to Oklahoma, host to Georgia, at Florida. We do have Ole Miss going 5-1 in this stretch. You know, that can be a shock for some of you, maybe not a shock for some of you, as a lot of people are high on Ole Miss. We have Ole Miss's one loss being at LSU. We do think Ole Miss bags Georgia at home. That may be a surprise. I do look for Lane Kiffin to give absolutely everything he has in that game. Georgia can slip up. Georgia has a gauntlet of a schedule themselves. It's absolutely brutal, and we do think that could be why Ole Miss gets them in the middle of that Georgia run. At number 5, we have Alabama. Alabama has a ton of teams on this top 38 with 8. They play at Wisconsin, host to Georgia, host to South Carolina, at Tennessee, host to Missouri, at LSU, at Oklahoma, host to Auburn. My goodness, just another gauntlet of a schedule for one of these top 10 teams here in this power ratings. We do have Alabama winning all those games except one, the game against Georgia. We do think Georgia gets them, even though it is in Tuscaloosa. We have Georgia going 11-1, spoiler alert, but we also have Alabama wrapping it up at 11-1 here. Look for their name to be in that playoff conversation as well. It is Alabama. At number 4, we have Texas. Texas plays at Michigan, host to Oklahoma, host to Georgia, host to Florida, host to Kentucky, and at Texas A&M. We do have Texas dropping 2 of those games, going 4-2 in that stretch. Texas's first season in the SEC, 10-2, nothing to be upset about. Probably not exactly what they were looking for, but 10 wins, man, that's a great first start in the SEC for them. I do expect their name to be around the playoff conversation, especially depending on who they beat, who they lose to. There are such things as good losses, in my opinion, especially when a 12-team playoff format comes to play. At number 3, we have Oregon. They have Boise State, Ohio State, at Michigan, at Wisconsin. So that gives them 4 teams in our top 38 ratings. Oregon, clean sweep. You know we love Oregon here. You know we're big fans of Dan Lanning. We think that Oregon high-powered offense with Evan Stewart, Dylan Gabriel, we really think that thing takes off. Let's not forget they returned Tez Johnson at receiver as well. I think he was second-team preseason All-American at the receiver position. Look for Oregon to go undefeated. Look for Oregon to headline this top 12 playoff. I really do expect big things for Oregon and Dan Lanning this season. At number 2, we have Ohio State. They have Iowa, at Oregon, home against Nebraska, at Penn State, home against Michigan. So they do have 3 teams on our top 38 they do have 5 teams on our top 38 power ratings here. We look for them to drop 2 of those games, and we do look for Ohio State to go 10-2. We look for them to lose the Oregon game, and we do look for them to lose the Penn State game. That could be a shock for a lot of you. I do think Ohio State is top-tier talented in this country. That's why I have them at number 2. You know, neutral fields, Ohio State probably would get Oregon and probably would get Penn State. I would definitely feel more comfortable saying neutral field, they get that Penn State game. This Oregon game, no matter where it's at, it's going to be an absolute banger. And I think why I give the nod to Oregon is because it is at Oregon, and I am more of a believer in Dylan Gabriel than I am Will Howard. So let's see where this Buckeyes team takes us. We have them wrapping it up at 10-2. I do think that could possibly, most likely, get them into a playoff spot. They'll definitely be in that conversation regardless. At number 1, that leaves us here with the University of Georgia. They do have 8 teams in the top 38. Absolute gauntlet. This is as hard as it gets. They're right up there with Florida. But we do think the difference is Georgia is top tier talented. Georgia has the best coach in the country. Georgia goes 7-1 in this stretch. They play host to Clemson, at Kentucky, at Alabama, host to Auburn, at Texas, host to Florida, at Ole Miss, at Tennessee. Man, Kirby Smart, buckle up the dogs, get them going. Let's get back to another national championship. Let's see if you can do it again. Come on, Georgia Bulldogs. All right, so now that we're wrapping up our top 38 schedules and what we think their records will be, we're going to kick it on over to the playoff predictions here. We're just going to bust through this real quick. Honestly, I'm not really going to go through with how the bracket finishes out. We're just going to give you our top 12, create a little conversation, see what you guys think. At number 12, we've mentioned this a few times now, we have Liberty. At number 11, we have Virginia Tech. At number 10, we have Missouri. Number 9, Ohio State. Number 8, Alabama. Number 7, Notre Dame. Number 6, Ole Miss. Number 5, Penn State. Number 4, Kansas State. Number 3, Miami. Number 2, Georgia. And number 1, Oregon. That is where we have things after going through the schedule, deep dive in returning starters, transfer rankings, head coaches, where the games are played. I feel pretty confident in this. Obviously, it's not going to be anything near perfect. Nobody can get this all the way right, but we're going to do our absolute best here, and this is where we end up with things. So now that we got the playoff conversation started, let's get on over to some full season bets here. We're going to go ahead and give you some of our best season bets. We have a couple on the docket here. I'm going to kick things off with Luther Burden. Luther Burden has very, very juicy odds to win the Biletnikoff Award at plus 520. Last I looked, he was the favorite. These obviously were the odds the last I looked. Obviously gamble responsibly, gamble legally, do your thing, go to the right places, place the bets, get the slips. Luther Burden to win the Biletnikoff is definitely on our radar. I will be looking to get a taste of that. All right, next we have Damian Martinez at plus 2,200. What a nice return that is. He transfers into Miami at running back from Oregon State. We do look at him at the plus 2,200 return mark for the Doak Walker Award. It could be a long shot, but we do expect big things from this Miami team. And for Miami to go and be 12-0 like we're predicting, we need a big season from Damian Martinez. So if that's the case, plus 2,200, you definitely have my interest. The safe play here would probably be Ollie Gordon at plus 300. The best running back in the country, returns to Oklahoma State. We do expect big things from Oklahoma State as well. And at plus 300 as the favorite, that's pretty favorable. We do like that as well with a pretty good return attached to that. We're going to kick on over here we're going to talk a little bit of this Heisman. Not something that I'll probably look into too much. I do have a couple guys here to talk about. Dillon Gabriel transferring into Oregon. We've talked about how we expect big things out of Oregon Ducks this season. Dillon Gabriel coming over from Oklahoma. His name was all over this Heisman conversation last year. He's been around. He's consistent. He will give you the absolute most. He's going to give you 110%. So Dillon Gabriel is a safe play here for a Heisman bet. You could get a hell of a return on a Nico Iamaleava, Tennessee quarterback Heisman Trophy winner bet. I think last I looked, it was on the plus 1,500 mark. We do expect big things for him in his first season as a starter, has all the talent in the world. If he really puts it together and this Tennessee offense gets flowing, you could look for his name in this conversation, and what a return that would be. We're going to talk a couple over-under win totals here that we might be looking into taking. I'm not too high on a team like Colorado. Colorado's got all kinds of buzz and conversation around them at all times. I'm not up for the Deion experience. Not a fan of how he's running this thing. He's not getting very good recruiting classes coming out of high school. He's relying solely on the transfer portal and getting these guys to come together, gel as quickly as possible, and get it all out there. His son, Shedeur Sanders, is a stud at the quarterback position. Travis Hunter could arguably be the best player in the country. Those two do help this team, but I do not look for big things in them in year 2 at this program. I am going to go ahead and lean under 5.5 wins for this Colorado team. I'll go ahead and fire over the sure wins I have for them. The under 5.5 is even odds right now. The surefire wins I would give them is North Dakota State, at Colorado State, Baylor, and Cincy. I do have those 4 as sure wins. I do look for the game at Colorado State to be chippy. There was a lot of bad blood last year between these two teams. They could potentially drop that one. Now let's talk some sure wins. Let's now talk some sure losses at Nebraska, at UCF, K-State, at Arizona, Utah, at Kansas, and home against Oklahoma State. I do think Colorado drops all those games. I'm not a believer in any of those. I don't think Deion outcoaches any of those other coaches. That leaves us with one game on the schedule. It's a coin flip game at Texas Tech. And to be honest with you, I almost put this in the sure loss category because this game is at Texas Tech, but Texas Tech is surrounded by questions as well. So this could be a coin flip game. I don't look for Colorado to pick this up. And if you do tell me that I have to have two more after the sure wins I gave you, I'm not confident at all that Colorado gets in here and hits the over on this in any way. Next, we have Virginia Tech. Their over under is sitting at 8.5 wins. I do think we are going to go ahead and take the over on this Virginia Tech team. We do have them at 30 in our power rating, like I've alluded to before. I expect them to go up. We have them finishing the season at 11-1, with their two toughest games being at Miami, host to Clemson. I'm very confident in this Virginia Tech team led by Kyron Drones. I really do think they cover this, and I kind of believe that they might cover this comfortably. A lot of you probably don't believe in the Virginia Tech like I do, but we'll just see where we end up at the end of the season on this one. The next over-under we're looking at is taking the over on the Oklahoma State win total. That is currently sitting at 8 wins. We are very confident in this Oklahoma State team, very confident in Ollie Gordon. They have two tough games according to our top 38 power ratings. Home against Utah, at Kansas State. We did tell you that we think they split that. We think Oklahoma State wraps it up at 11-1. So for them to do that, Ollie Gordon has to go. And Oklahoma State over 8 wins would be a very safe play if we think that they're going to go ahead and into that 11-1. The next over-under we're looking at is Miami over 9 wins. Like we talked to you about, we do think Miami clean sweeps it. We think Miami goes undefeated. We do think Mario Cristobal, Cam Ward, Damian Martinez, Sammy Brown, we think all these guys put it together. That defense is stout. That defense will make some noise, be hard to score on. Miami over 9, I feel pretty comfortable with it, so we're going to go ahead and lean that direction as well. We have about 3 left here. The next one being Nebraska over 7.5 total wins. We have Nebraska sliding in the top 38 power ratings at number 22. They did have 4 teams in this top 38 on their schedule. So if you just go ahead and have them split that, drop 2 of those, that still leaves them at 10-2, which is where we had it ending up, because we do believe they did beat USC and we do believe they beat Wisconsin. We do think they comfortably hit the over 7.5 on this. The second to last one we have here is Oregon at over 10.5. Like we told you, we are all the way in on Oregon. 10.5 is a lot. That is a small margin for error. So I do understand the hesitation, as I am as well, a little hesitant. But if you're a believer like I am in this Oregon team and Dillon Gabriel, led by head coach Dan Lanning, push the chips in. Oregon it is. Let's go, Oregon Ducks. Win us some money. The last one we have here is Penn State. We do lean over 10.5. Like we told you, we do think they go undefeated at 12-0. Could be hard to do. Small margin as well. The odds sit at plus 135 on that. That's plus money. That's juicy. Everything else I gave you was not plus odds. You have to lay a little bit to win a little bit. But on this one, you get plus 135. I do like that. That does catch my attention. That does get me to go ahead and lean that direction and take the over on that, because we do have them going 12-0. They did have 3 teams on this top 38, but let's say they drop that Ohio State game and then they go ahead and beat USC and Wisconsin, which I think is not too tall of an ask for them. That still wraps them up at 11-1. Very confident in this Penn State team to go ahead and get that done for us. Like we told you earlier, bet responsibly, do it legally. Go get the bet slip over there from your favorite casino, whether that's DraftKings, whoever you use, whether you fly out to Vegas. Dave and I are going to take a trip, lock in some bets, get the slips in our hand. What a good feeling that is. We cannot wait. One thing we're going to be starting here is every week we are going to give you 2 episodes. We're going to give you a Friday episode, which comes out right before all the games on Saturday. Going to be a little preview of the games. We're going to give you some of our best bets. We're going to give you some of the best games, maybe the best game top 5 preview like we started this podcast off with. And then Monday, Tuesday, after the games are over, we're going to go ahead and review those games, give you some details on what we saw, update our rankings, let you know which teams are trending in the right direction, running hot, running cold. But one of the new things that we're going to offer in that Friday episode, we're going to go ahead and start today. We're going to call it our wife's picks. And my wife's pick for the season this season, she's going to go ahead and take Texas A&M over 8.5 full season win total. I asked her to give me some information on why she thought Texas A&M was going to hit the over 8.5, and she said because they're good. That's why. I said, okay, fair enough. So we'll go ahead and maybe lock that one in for her too. Maybe follow along with her. She does run pretty hot on the bets sometimes. So we're going to go ahead and write a page on this one at over 8.5 for Texas A&M. I just want to thank you all for all the support. Keep following us. You've been here with us from the beginning. Keep riding with us till the end. We're going to go ahead and get this season started. We cannot wait to see where this thing takes us. We love college football. We love riding with you all. Thank you all very much.